Hello and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. And today we are speaking once again with Carrie McCormick for our Monday Market Minute. If you're not familiar with Carrie, she's actually been with us since the very beginning, almost 4 years on the show. We're so grateful to have her. She's one of the top real estate agents in Chicago. And just to tell you how big a deal that is, there are over 44,000 real estate agents in Chicago. She is always in about the top 15 out of those 44,000, sometimes top 10. She's been a top producer for over 20 years. She's with At Properties and just an amazing broker. And if you want to find her online, please visit her on her website, which is carriemccormickre.com. Again, carriemccormickre.com. And also, please follow her on Instagram. She has an unbelievably wonderful Instagram account, and it's a great model for how real estate agents probably should do Instagram. So you can find her at Carrie McCormick Real Estate. Again, at Carrie McCormick Real Estate. Carrie, once again, thanks and welcome.
Well, thank you. It's a wonderful intro. Appreciate it as always. So hope you're doing well. Hope everyone out there is staying safe and sane right through this time. But I wanted to chat today to talk a little bit about marketing.
Right.
Because, obviously times have changed, and I wanted to bring everybody back to your grade school days. So do you remember your show and tell days at school?
Yes.
You were little, it was a nerve-wracking time, but I remember show and tell, and I mastered that really early on in my years, and I never thought show and tell would, be part of my professional career. So just a quick little backstory about Carrie. When I grew up, I was actually a tomboy. And I remember my show and tell days at school, or my day that came, and I was at home feverishly looking for something to, bring to school. And being a tomboy, I was afraid that the girls were going to judge me or the boys were going to judge me. And my favorite toy was the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Sure.
And
that was a favorite toy of mine as well.
So my mom convinced me not to bring the General Lee to school. But what she did tell me, she brought me this shell, and she's like, remember this, the seashell that we got when we were in Florida? And she started telling me the story about the day that we found this shell and how we've kept on to it. And, it's been in our house ever since. And, she was such a good storyteller. It just made me think, and it made me feel like happy, hearing that story, and just kind of remembering the day at the beach and how the sun felt that day and the sound of the waves and the seagulls, and, brought a smile to my face. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to bring this shell to school. And, so I go to show and tell day, and, I get up in front of the class, and, my hands have got this shell. And I can just kind of feel like the classroom looking at me like, oh God, a shell? You're like, really? And
Right.
So I got up in front of the class, and I started, just not talking about the shell, but I was talking about the day I found the shell and how it made me feel, and just created this story around the shell. And I do remember at some point, the classroom just kind of like leaning in, right? Like, I want to hear more about this, and, what happened next? And so it didn't become a story about the shell. It just became a story of emotion and how it made me feel. And, really fast forward to now, that's what we have to do, right? So we can't show properties for the most part. We can, but, a lot of people aren't out. So we have to now tell people about the properties.
Right.
We need to turn our listings into consumable virtual content now. And we have to think beyond this visual. We have to engage people, and we do that through storytelling. So I think our descriptions of the homes and, our marketing just has to change. A few years ago, I came up with this marketing campaign. And if you look back to on my Instagram, you'll see that I had this ad that said, every home has its own story.
Yeah.
And our job is to tell the story of this home and make it come alive. I think we've been inundated by these images of homes, right? You just start clicking through these homes. But what a story does is it engages somebody and it tells the history and the personality of the home, right? You start engaging and connecting with people's emotions. And I mean, think about even those like Budweiser commercials, if you remember those, or, some of these commercials that make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. So not only now are we real estate agents, we've got to be storytellers and marketers.
Yeah.
One thing that I've done is when I sit down with a seller is I ask them, their perspective of their home. Like what's their favorite, design of the home, the architecture, the history of the home, even sometimes quirks of the homes, and have them tell you a story. So if it's, my kids loved, hiding out under the stairs, they would play hide and go seek there. I mean, that's when you do showings. I mean, you could talk about that when someone opened storage under the stairs, you'd be like, oh, I got a funny story. My seller's kids used to, play hide and seek down here. Again, it's sharing moments. It's sharing the history of the home that really makes it come alive.
I have a friend who bought a home recently, and it had a lap pool in the back. I'm not a practicing realtor myself, so I haven't really seen one before. And it's really unusual. It's just a long, thin pool. And I said, what's the story behind that? And he had bought the home. It was there when he bought it. And he told me this story about how the guy was training for this, it was some sort of triathlon, and he was so into it that he built this into the backyard. And anyway, it created a story, because I think you're right. Like, what happens when someone buys a home and their friends come over for the housewarming party is they look at something that might be unique about the home or unusual. And they're like, what's the story with that? What happened there? And so you're right. Like, when you have a listing, you now have the ability to tell those stories, and people love to know the history of a place or what's unique about it. And you're right. I think so often realtors forget to incorporate that. And that's also one thing that the disruptors, in particular, the algorithms, the companies that are trying to, just automate a lot of the home buying and selling process, really can't do. They can't tell that story. They can show pictures. They can tell you the facts. So I think you're right. They call that story selling, I think. This idea of, yeah.
So another thing is, as you're talking to your sellers and you're writing your story about the home, make sure that you include key terms that buyers are likely to be searching, right? You have to think about how a buyer is searching. And, you can take advantage of a little SEO as well. So as people are, Googling certain terms or certain aspects, like lap pool is a good example, I mean, that's kind of broad, but, at least, you have some sort of descriptions too that give a little bit of history about it. Also, I've started doing a little bit more perspective of the homes from the outside. So because clients aren't going out as much, they don't know, they don't know like what the street scene looks like, right? What's next door. We take our pictures, we take it just at the front of that house.
Yeah.
We don't know what the neighbors look like. And Google Earth has become a very helpful tool, but also just, videoing coming down the street, coming into your, front door. What does it look like to the left, to the right? So definitely have more pictures just in general, but I'd say also start incorporating some pictures from the outside as well.
That's a really good idea, because I know that when I am looking to move, I want to see what's nearby. And especially now when it's not as easy to get out and be mobile and actually go visit the properties, now is the time for the realtor to say, hey, let me show you what the neighborhood looks like. Or let's show you, if you're in the city, like what's nearby, what cool shops and restaurants and retail establishments. So that's a great, and what the scenery looks like nearby.
And now that the trees are budding, everything's starting to look better. So it's really a good time to start, doing some outside shots and more neighborhood shots. So, the market is the market. And, I think first and foremost, we have to, worry about everyone's safety and health. But also, real estate is important because it's our home, and we obviously, everyone's spending more time in our homes. And I do think that in times of uncertainty, real estate can bring a tangible solution. And, breathing room for people who are changing craving change in their life. So I think it's really an important aspect, and it's our job to bring it to them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I know I'm feeling, I don't know how you're feeling, but I've started to think about, maybe it's time for me to upsize. Maybe it's time for me to, when we return to normal, and maybe even before we return to normal, is to really get serious about, I'm lucky enough to be able to go into the office still, and I'm lucky most people don't get to do that. But even with the amount of time I'm spending at home, which is more than normal, I'm still feeling confined. And I suspect a tremendous number of people are feeling that same way, and are I think now more than ever. And people are also looking online too. I think we're maybe just have a little bit more time, and we're feeling like, oh, maybe it's a little too close for comfort. And now is a great time to reach out to those clients and obviously check in to see how they're doing, but maybe even wait for them to tell you, hey, it's a good thing you called. I'm actually thinking about maybe finding a bigger space or just a different space.
Right. Especially work from home. If people are going to be working from home, they need their own space. So it's an interesting time, and it's our job to, to help keep the real estate market moving forward and doing the right thing.
Yeah, I also wonder too, and I don't know much about the commercial world. We've had commercial brokers on the show before, but I'm curious on how many people once were able to return to work. I wonder how many employers are going to say, this work at home thing works pretty well. And so I think from the residential side, there are going to be a lot of people going, I don't really have a dedicated space for a home office, and this might be more of a regular thing for me now, or maybe at least some of the days of the week I'm going to work from home. And so I think there's going to be a lot of movement when everything returns, and rates are so low, and it's such a great time if you are looking to buy to just be doing that. And so I think now more than ever, realtors are so important. Just staying in touch with the clients, waiting for them even to reach out saying, I think I need to upgrade. So
I agree.
So here's my marketing tip of the month, and this might not necessarily apply to everyone listening, so I apologize for that in advance. But I think this will apply to most brokers. And when I say brokers, I need to remember that not everywhere realtors are not always called brokers. So agent, broker, realtor, whatever it is you call yourself, real estate professional. But here in Chicago, this is quite popular, and I imagine in many metropolitan areas, even maybe more rural areas, you can still do this. So we all know about the MLS, and the MLS, I'm going to be talking about rentals just for a moment. Of course, the MLS has lots and lots of rentals. Typically, these are owners who are looking to rent out properties that they have to potential tenants. But there's also another side of rentals, which are third-party management. These would be companies that either own or manage buildings or units that they typically don't list on the MLS. And a lot of times realtors forget that these opportunities exist because they're not on the MLS. And so often we're tied to the MLS and thinking that's the inventory. Well, that is the inventory, but there's also this non-MLS inventory. So here in Chicago, at least, there are dozens of big property management companies that never list any of their units on the MLS. And so if you're a broker in an area and you have renters, you can oftentimes feel limited by what's available on the MLS. So if you can reach out to these properties, you just call them and ask, say, hey, do you work with realtors? Are you willing to pay a commission if I bring you someone? And right now, it's actually kind of realtors don't have to do as much work because a lot of these management companies have their own in-house leasing staff. They love it when brokers call. They love right now, they're not getting calls either. The phone's not ringing as much. So if you have somebody that's looking for an apartment, now it's probably in some ways easier than ever to pass them over to some of these leasing consultants. You still obviously earn a commission, and they'll do the virtual showing, or if they're able to go see the property, that's possible too. But just remember these opportunities exist. And really it's as simple as just, going online, doing a search for apartments if you're a realtor, and just reaching out to the management company and say, hey, I don't know if you partner with agents or not, but I have somebody that would really love to see this property. Do you guys accept those kind of referrals? And you'll find more often than not that those, especially right now when things are slower, those firms want your calls. And so reach out. You can pass it over to their leasing consultants. They're the best ones to do the showings anyway. You can maybe be there on a virtual, in the background, or just turn it immediately over. And I've heard from a lot of management companies right now saying, please, please, please have your realtors call us. We need tenants. So great opportunity. And if you're in an area that you've never done that before, great opportunity to reach out to those management companies and build a relationship and say, hey, I do get renters and I would love to send them over your way. So
that's great. I agree.
Awesome. Well, if anyone out there is listening who would like to work with one of the top realtors in the Chicagoland area, which, by the way, we are the second largest real estate market in the country, or second or third. This is a big deal. Carrie is legitimately one of the very top agents, brokers. She is well respected. She's been doing it for 20 plus years. Carrie, what's the best way a client can reach out to you or somebody who's looking to work with you?
Sure. So I love when people call. So it's 312-961-4612. Or you could shoot me a quick email at Carrie, CARRIE, at atproperties.com.
Also, please follow Carrie on Instagram. You can find her at Carrie McCormick Real Estate. I'm oftentimes not impressed always with how realtors promote themselves on social media. Carrie is the exception. She just does it so unbelievably well. She does it all herself too, which is even more impressive. So if you want to see what a really impressive and wonderful Instagram account looks like, follow her there, Carrie McCormick Real Estate. And also, if you want to see a really great realtor website as well, CarrieMcCormickRE.com is where you can go and learn more about Carrie. But definitely reach out to her if you are interested in finding a top agent to work with, or if you're just interested in learning more about Carrie. Well, Carrie, thank you so much. I'm glad to know that you and your family are safe and healthy, and you are still going strong.
Thank you
Did I
so
lose you?
much.
Oh, thought I lost you for a second. Yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. I want to, on behalf of Carrie and myself, we want to thank the listeners for continuing to support our show. We're now 4 years in, and we're going as strong as ever. We have the most number of listeners we've ever had, which is we're so grateful for that. And also, please tell a friend. Think of one other agent that could benefit from watching or listening to these episodes and send them over our podcast. And also, please follow us on Facebook. You can find us at facebook.com/Keeping It Real Pod. And on behalf of the listeners and myself, Carrie, once again, thank you for taking time. We're doing this on a Sunday morning, by the way, and that's how dedicated Carrie is. So kind to be on our show on taking time away from her business and family to share with our listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Awesome. You're the best.
Thanks.
Thanks.